Ooh na na na. 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 Ooh la la la. Oh.
Hey everyone, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. Yes, we're going to be talking about Amadou Onana, because Arsenal are said to have interest and have made contact with Everton about the player. So make sure you guys are liking this video and subscribing to the channel. I don't know if you guys remember what that's from, but I think the most recent, what was it? The FA Cup. Everton went out to Fulham or something like that. And he took the penalty and it wasn't good. As you guys can see, it wasn't good. So, but I don't think necessarily like the penalty means anything. I just wanted to put that up there because it's fucking hilarious. So yeah, make sure you guys are liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And like I always say, if you want to make sure that your comment or question is read out, you can become a channel member. I think the membership is only like $1.99 just to make sure that, you know, your comments are always read out first, or you can super chat it in. You guys know I love a good super chat because it pays for my coffee addiction. So yeah, let's see. A boy says, meh, not a fan of anyone who's been linked with aside from Diomande and Hato from just before the window opened. Kenneth says, watching him now, FA Cup. Harley Quinn says, does she have a boyfriend? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Chosen One says, can you tell me a bit about Hato? You said you think Arsenal are going to bring him in. What positions does he play? And would he start right away? So he's 17 years old. He plays left-sided center back for Ajax. He's captained the side before, and he's played every single minute, I think, this season. He's about 6 foot tall, and he's very good. He's just very young. And it just sometimes you just get a feeling about certain deals because of where the player's coming from, the profile, all of that kind of stuff. Arsenal like younger players, project players. You know, we know that we need another left-sided center back, left back. And so this feels like something that could potentially get done. Sam J. Dean talked about it earlier. And so it probably won't get done in January, but most likely in the summer. And maybe Arsenal will bring in somebody else in January to make sure that we have enough people. Let's see. Errol says, yes, go and get him. Boy says, Hato, center back, left back, 17, who would play ahead of Kivior. He would be better than Kivior, in my opinion. World Boss says, hey, Jess, ready for the second half of the show. You rock. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Here to There says, Onana, good player, but outside of being scared to death of being countered, starting to struggle to pin down what Arteta is trying to do. We're going to talk about that as well. Sometimes the way Arteta plays doesn't necessarily make sense with the players that we're linked with, because I can totally accept wanting to play a little bit more of a physical style, but then you have to be more direct, because when you take out the technical quality of this team, they really struggle to play this intricate juego de posición type of way, you know? So I just struggle to see sometimes what Arteta is trying to get done. Nick says, which team spends the most this Jan? Probably not Arsenal, because Arsenal will probably be doing a loan. We'd be lucky if we got something else done, but probably not. Probably not Arsenal, that's for sure. True Gunnar says, Onana bossed us last season when we lost 1-0, to be fair. He did, but, you know, most players have their best ever game against Arsenal. Caicedo did, Lavia did, Onana did. It's just something that these midfielders do. They tend to really want to show up Arsenal, whether it's, I don't know, just they hate us, or they want to come play for us. I don't know. You know what I mean? So yeah, Kenneth says, Jess, I hate the way that guy was speaking to you on some channel. I came across very disrespectful. Listen, you guys, I am not immune to, first of all, I give as much as I can take, you know, so I am not innocent. I will go at people as well. And it was a debate. Northside is a very nice person, and we just disagree on certain things. And mostly I disagree with his delivery more than anything. And I just feel like in conversations around Arsenal, it's important not to generalize the fan base, because when you tell me that nobody had a problem with Nketiah getting extended and nobody had a problem with Elneny getting extended, we all know that that's a complete fabrication. And so, yeah, I just like to be honest and, you know, make sure that we're not generalizing things. And so it got a little bit heated, but Arsenal are not in a good period right now. And when you have differences of opinion, sometimes the voices get louder, the opinions get more amplified. And so nothing wrong with that. We're fine. And yeah, it's just one of those things, you know. I give as much as I can take. I was not that nice on that stream either. So there you go. Nico says, big up, Jess. Everyone, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. We have mods now, which is amazing. Nuances of Fate says, Onana's ball playing is poor. Hope we stay away. Lionite says, Everton's Onana having a laugh. Where's the link? The link has come from Mo Arsenal 86, who's been very on point with a lot of the Arsenal news as of late. He actually called Emile Smith-Rowe starting against Sheffield before anybody else. So he is on the pulse. He is somewhat like a team news and ticks, but we all know we've been linked to Amadou Onana for a while. So, and also Everton need money. Earl Graham says Onana is a long-term, would be better than injured Thomas Partey, Jess. We'll talk about that as well. Nuances of Face says, don't worry about her. She's grown. I sure am. Like, I sure am. You know, it is what it is. C. Walder says, I think Northside is a performer and a twat. That's not nice. Off the Radar says, Onana is so poor. Maybe Arteta wants to be unpredictable. So before we get into the full nitty gritty, I want to remind you guys that me and Diluted did an excellent show earlier. I remember after the stream that I did at 1 p.m., I was telling you guys that I was going to record with Diluted. We recorded something for his channel, and we also recorded something for my Patreon. So if you guys want to go ahead and take a sneak peek at that, you guys can at patreon.com/SheKnowsArsenal. It's free for 7 days if you guys want to try it out. But that show will be coming out at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And we did everything from, you know, preview Liverpool. We talked about all the current targets. We talked about whether or not we're in crisis. We talked a lot about Kai Havertz in the midfield, and it was probably the best Patreon episode that we've had so far. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, you can. Either way, you guys are going to get 2 streams a day from me. So don't feel any pressure to buy anything or anything, but I just wanted to put that out there. Diluted's one of the best out here. He's one of the best content creators, I think. And, you know, so at the very least, just make sure you guys go like his video, subscribe to his channel, and set notifications for him, because he's definitely one of the best out there for sure. Blaze says, did people saw what Arteta and Hudson-Odoi in social media? I hope Arsenal or Arteta will release a statement, because false accusations are not nice. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi did release a statement on that for sure. Akena, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Akena says, yo, rate the content, off topic, but what made you support Arsenal? I feel like I want to go ahead and like make a video about it, because a lot of people ask me this question. I get it on a daily basis. And it's not that I don't love telling the story. It's just like I would like it documented somewhere, as it is like my most frequently asked question. But I guess I can go ahead and say it again. Basically, I used to play. I wish I could have, I had the picture with me. I don't have it, but I used to play. I played all the way through college. I got a scholarship to play, blah, blah, blah. But when I was younger, I actually really liked watching the game. And in America at that time, like early 2000s, late 90s, you could only really watch like MLS or women's or even Liga MX. Like you could only watch stuff like that. And so my mom, like she was everything I'm into, my mom is very into. So she knew that I really wanted to watch more games and understand the game a lot more. So she would often like look on TV to see if we could find any games that we could watch together. And so one day she did come and she was like, hey, Jess, you want to watch this game? And it was actually a Manchester United game, because in America, they would only show the best teams at that time. And so the first Premier League game I ever saw was a Manchester United game. Roy Keane was out there, Dwight York, Andy Cole, all of those players. It was, I don't know who they're playing against, but I remember seeing those players in particular. And I was like, wow, this team is really good. I've never seen anybody play like this before. And then the next weekend, my mom actually came to me and was like, actually, Jess, you need to come and watch this team. They have this guy. His name is Thierry Henry. She didn't know how to pronounce Thierry Henry, but she was talking about Thierry Henry. And from the moment that I saw Arsenal play, I was like, this is my team. Robert Pires, Freddie Ljungberg, Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry, Sol Campbell, you know, you name it, they were on that team. And I was obsessed from that moment. I might have been like 15, you know, or something like that. And so Arsenal just became my team just like that. You just, when you know, like that is the player that is the team that I wanted to support. And it's history. You know, I freaking love Arsenal so much. It's my life, basically. So, yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Chosen One says, well, if Arteta wants more solidity, why doesn't he make the attack more expansive? Isn't that the point? Isn't Onana a DM? So let's go ahead and get into it, because I know you guys are like, what the hell is this Onana stuff? So Mo Arsenal 86 said, Arsenal have contacted Everton to explore the conditions for bringing in Amadou Onana to the Emirates. And since that post, everybody's been going pretty crazy over it, just because, like, we know we need additional bodies, and we know we need midfield cover, especially if we're relying on the likes of like Fabio Vieira and Emile Smith-Rowe and Thomas Partey. We know that whether it's a quality thing or an availability thing, that's probably not enough to make it through the season. And so we've been linked to guys like Paulinho. We've been linked to Zubamendi as well. And Onana is a little bit different than the other players that we've been linked to. He, to me, is a center midfielder DM. He's not going to score you loads of goals, but what he can do is off the ball. He's somebody that's going to win it back. He can progress the ball with his dribbling. He's quite aggressive. He's very tall. He's like 6'5" or something like that. So he would actually be the tallest person on Arsenal if he were to join, taller than Kai Havertz and William Saliba. And he's just like a monster. He's somebody that when you play against the big teams, I think Sean Dyche would probably really like a player like that, because he really does shine against the bigger teams, because what he tends to do is he can break lines and dribble up the pitch and progress the ball for a team like an Everton, but is that what Arsenal needs? I'm not sure, because if Arteta was willing to change his tactics a little bit to suit a more off the ball, athletic, running style, then I would accept this as like, okay, this is just the new era of Arsenal. You guys know me. I'm not wedded to the idea that we have to play tiki-taka, because like early Arsenal was more, or the Arsenal that I remember wasn't necessarily tiki-taka. We played nice football, but we were hella direct. There was lots of, just 3 passes and we were in the opposition's half. Or in the opposition's penalty box. So I'm not wedded to the idea that we have to do 100 passes to get into the box. Like I don't care about that. But what I do care about is bringing in profiles of players and then expecting them to play in a way that doesn't suit them. Don't make me get started on Kiwi, or don't piss me off, So for me, it's, you have Kai Havertz that's more of an off the ball player. You have Declan Rice that's more of an off the ball player. Amadou Onana would be more of an off the ball player. And so again, when you bring in midfielders that are more off the ball, and like you replace Xhaka and Partey with those types of guys, you have to modify your system a little bit. And Arteta, for me, is not somebody that is very flexible with the way that he wants to play. So having somebody like Amadou Onana in your team trying to tiki-taka through the midfield stinks to me, but if you want to pass it up to him and have him run through their entire midfield and play a more counterattacking style and cross it into the box and let Havertz freaking head it in, I'm all for that shit. I'm all for that, because those are the players that you're buying. I don't care if we're more direct. I just only want to bring in players that are going to play the style that's necessary. And no, he doesn't necessarily replace Thomas Partey, because like I've always told you guys, Thomas Partey's biggest strengths are actually on the ball. Just because you're of a certain hue and, you're from a certain place doesn't mean you're just PMP. And for me, one of Thomas Partey's weakest points is his agility and athleticism. I think he does a really good job with intercepting the ball, and he can wrap his leg around somebody and nick it by him. But when you're past Thomas Partey, you're past Thomas Partey. So they're completely different. I don't think just because they're both of a certain hue that they're both the same. Thomas Partey's best qualities are dipping the shoulder and evading pressure, being able to progress the ball in that way. He's very skillful, and his his passes, it's disguised passes around corners and through balls and things like that. That is Thomas Partey's strength, not off the ball. So no, Amadou Onana doesn't really replace Thomas Partey. He doesn't replace Jorginho. He's a completely different player to anything that we have in our team right now, which is fine if you're going to play a different style. Because I'm not watching Havertz and Onana and Kivior and fucking Declan Rice and all of our like center backs trying to tiki-taka out the back. I'm not watching that. But if you want to boom it up front and play a little DYCHE ball, Arteta, do it, but freaking commit, because I'm not watching that nonsense. I'm really not, But no, he doesn't have any tech. He's not going to look like poetry in motion. He's not going to look like any of those things. And just because you're of a certain color does not mean that, you're just PNP, but he is kind of just PNP. So that I don't know what to tell you. Off the radar says, got Tierney inverting. Exactly. I don't want to see that. You need to change the tactics a little bit, The Arsenal perspective says, I don't want Partey going in like a hard man only to get injured again. Finesse my Ghanaian bro, finesse. Travi says, Kivior is not a left back. I remember watching some YouTuber saying his hips was so fluid and he's perfect for the left back and he was quick. Man is slow and got no agility. I don't know where the rumor about Kivior being incredibly quick came from, but I've yet to see him be fast. Like, it's weird that they said he was the fastest player in preseason only for him to look slow as molasses. It's crazy, J15 says, who is the most like-for-like player out there to replace Partey? Like I said, he's a unicorn. Like, I don't really know who is similar to Thomas Partey. There's not a lot of players out there that I can see that look anything like Thomas Partey. I think that's why a lot of Arsenal fans are afraid to move him on, is because they know that there's nobody out there on the market. But that does not mean that you cannot get better beyond Thomas Partey. You can replace some of his on the ball prowess with somebody like a Zubimendi. And then if you have Declan Rice, you have the physicality aspect of things. So there's different ways to balance things out to make sure that you have those qualities still in your team. But if you're looking for one player to be just like Thomas Partey, I just don't see that player out there. Even like my ideal choice for this type of profile in Youssouf Fofana is nowhere near the level that Thomas Partey is on the ball. It's just not. It is not. Nico says De Jong. That's a really good shout. Let's see. Here to there says, but any core plan with Havertz as a solution as the number 9 is a non-starter. People seem to forget Havertz 3 years of mediocrity at number 9 for Chelsea. Again, we're going to get into the conversations with Kai Havertz about what his best position is, because he's not going to be the best solution in midfield every single game. If there's no ball player behind him to make up for his lack of progressive passing and volume passing and all that kind of stuff, then you're not going to want him in there. You're going to want somebody else. And so, yeah, Kai Havertz will probably spend some time at Arsenal with people wondering what his best position is, but that's always kind of been Kai Havertz's problem. Nobody really knows how to get the most out of him, and nobody really plays a system that suits somebody that just runs into the box. That's a very specific niche role. And yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, Social Join says Kivior ain't good enough. Like, the gap between Benny, Saliba, Gabby Tommy is massive. Kenneth says, how do these smaller teams find good players and only for big teams to come and scoop them up? Football can be so unfair sometimes. Jeffrey says, Onana is just fine looking at the FFP. Onana is just fine looking at the FFP we're handling. Boy says Havertz is a CM. All his managers are just dumb and tell him to float into the box instead of working the midfield. Yo-Yo says a lot of projection and assumption, but Timber was intended to replace Zinchenko and Partey, hence why Partey moved to right back last season. And Timber started left back this season without Zinchenko. Here to there says, honestly, Arteta wishes Havertz could do the Decore does. Honestly, Arteta wishes Havertz could do the Decore does for DYCHE, or what he does. So yeah, it's one of those things that I don't mind having a player like this in the team. Like, I'm not that snobby. If you want to be more of a direct style, just commit. If you want to go full-blown Simeone, go full-blown Simeone. Don't half-ass it, because I just don't want to see players that don't have the capabilities doing things that they can't do. But in terms of the feasibility of the deal, I still would imagine that Arsenal would need to sell somebody. And that kind of leads me to the next topic of conversation, which is Eddie. You guys, what are we going to do? Like, what's going on? Why won't they get rid? I do not understand. So something came out earlier. I don't know if I see it anymore. I think I may have oh, here it is. This came out about 5 hours ago from David Ornstein. David Ornstein said Crystal Palace have firm interest in Nketiah, but Arsenal have not indicated any desire to let him go so far. If that changes, I'd expect Palace to push hard. Edu, what are you doing? What are you doing? Crystal Palace. We finally have a team that's desperate for Eddie. And they're desperate because it's January and they want to save their bacon. So just sell him. I don't know why we're holding on so tight. And like I said yesterday, we don't have to replace Eddie right now. Even if we don't bring in a striker, we don't have to replace Eddie. We don't. We have Trossard and Havertz and Martinelli that can all play in that central position. We play with a false nine, for fuck's sake. We play with a false nine. So you don't need him. He's not prolific. He has 5 goals this season, 3 of which came against the worst team in the league. Let's be all the way freaking for real. Arsenal, be serious. Sell him. He would help get the money in order for us to bring in somebody that could actually help us from now until the end of the season. Does that have to be Onana? No, it doesn't have to be. But who would be more useful in the team right now? I don't know. I don't think Eddie adds that much value beyond, I don't know. I don't see it, I just don't see it. So, yeah, like if Arsenal want to bring in somebody, they're going to have to get really serious about selling. Now, some people are saying that this is just a negotiation tactic, but I've seen Arsenal do this before. We're not really looking to sell this player. They're important to the plans and the player ends up staying, for one too many windows. So I don't really understand this because I don't actually think you need to replace Eddie in the team. I think if Trossard or Havertz or Martinelli played just as much time as Eddie did at center forward, they would score just as many goals. Like he's not that prolific and his profile is not that important. Like if you want a tall, more athletic, more whatever, then play Havertz up there. If you want somebody more clinical, play Martinelli up there. But his profile is not even like from a physical standpoint anything that we can't afford, like we cannot afford to lose. He's 5'9". He's not fast, he's not strong, he's not good aerially. He's not good with his feet. Like, you see what I'm saying? So I don't understand why they just will not sell him. It feels very like we're just doing it for doing its sake. Maybe they're trying to drive up the price and wait a little bit longer to see if Crystal Palace get desperate. But there's other options out there. So Arsenal need to not be arrogant. Just go ahead and sell the guy and move on. It's not that deep. Maybe it's not that deep for me. Maybe it's deep for Arteta because I'm still trying to figure out what he got on him. Like, what do you have on him? Social Join says I'd sell Eddie for Sesko tonight. I'd sell Eddie for Eli Wahi tonight. Let's be serious. He's not very good. Chavi says, why didn't we make Fofana part of the Balogun deal? I don't know. I think it's really difficult to do deals that require 2 players to be involved. Like, but I would imagine like everybody says we have this great relationship with Monaco. We basically gave them Balogun on a discount. Freaking asked them for Yusuf Fofana. He has like 18 months left on his deal. Like, convince him not to sign a new deal. And they were going to sell Yusuf Fofana to Nottingham Forest for 35 million in the summer. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but Nottingham Forest got 2 deals done in the summer that did not end up coming off because the players didn't want to be at Nottingham Forest. And that was Johan Bakayoko and Yusuf Fofana. 40 million for Bakayoko and 35 million for Yusuf Fofana. So they were willing to sell these players in the summer. Now, I know that now it's, because basically I thought what was going to happen is they were going to sell Fofana to Monaco or to Nottingham Forest, and then they were going to come get Sambi. That's the only reason why I really know that this happened is because I was trying to see what was going to happen with Sambi. Sambi could have ended up at Monaco to replace Fofana. So I know that they don't have an active replacement, but I would just say if you're willing to spend money on Amadou Onana, at least apply a little bit of pressure on Monaco first and see if you can get Yusuf Fofana because he's better, period. He's better. Like, he just is better, but that's, I don't think we could have made Yusuf Fofana as like a part of the Balogun deal, but because we gave them Balogun for like less than what he's worth, if we're honest, we should be able to go to them and be like, so what about this Fofana? How are we getting him? At the very least. But Arsenal love a Premier League signing, and I feel like that's why we end up spending too much, is because we don't finesse. We have no finesse. We don't know how to, okay, this is a profile I want. I can see that Amadou Onana is here, but what's out there in the world that's similar but cheaper at someone else's club? Social Join says, I think Fofana goes to Italy or West Ham or once Paquetá goes to City. He was heavily linked with West Ham, and as we've kind of seen, maybe we should intervene before players go to West Ham. Zahid says, what's the source of the Onana news? We've been linked with him before, but the source is Mo Arsenal 86, who seems to have really good information over the last like 6 to 8 months. And so it's not like 100% or anything like that, but everything he's pretty much said has been true. And I wouldn't bring you guys anything that was just like total nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Because we've also been linked to Onana for months now. So, yeah. Yo-Yo says, Eddie is Arteta's poster boy for non-negotiables. I've stopped criticizing Eddie. Once the contract was renewed, Arteta, Edu prefer to play checkers over chess. Here to there says, wow, the gross negligence from Arteta and Edu to do the Balogun deal with no Fofana here and that. And Onana will be at least 50 million. He's going to be very expensive. They're going to expect a pretty sizable fee. And that's my only thing is like, if you're not willing to sell Eddie to bring in a player, then I don't know. Like, it doesn't have to be Amadou Onana. It doesn't have to. There's other players that are probably available. But you have to be willing to move players on a little bit quicker. You just have to be willing to do it. So just some of his numbers. Oh, they're playing right now? Are they playing right now, y'all? I think one of y'all said he was playing. You guys have made me miss some football. Hold on real quick. Are they playing the FA Cup? Let me go look. You guys just let me miss the football. I want to put it on while we talk. So just give me 1 second, guys. Oh, my back hurts. Not like you guys care. You're like, why do I care? Like, I don't know. Oof. But yeah, they're saying this is coming from Statman Dave. He said Onana's first half against Crystal Palace, 96% pass accuracy, 33 touches, 26 out of 27 passes completed, 6 duels won, 2 out of 3 long balls completed, and 2 fouls won. So yeah, he's one of those duel guys. Oh yeah, it's on here. Palace need a striker. Come get Eddie, please. So let's see what else you guys are saying. Let's see. Kenneth says, what you watching Barcelona? I was watching Juventus for some godforsaken reason. Blaze says, yes, Everton play FA Cup Palace. Okay, so yeah, it's on the 73rd minute. So let's see if anything happens. Boy says Arteta is married to the Prem proven myth. Maybe there's something to be said about it, because remember, we spoke about this earlier, is that anybody that comes from another league that needs any sort of integration, adaptation, or development doesn't do well under Mikel Arteta. So maybe it just is the case that he needs to buy the Trossards and the Jorginhos so that they don't end up being a waste. Okay, well, let's see what Onana does now. He made a pass. Goal. Oh no. Yeah, his strength is definitely win the ball and start dribbling. And he's clunky, that's for sure. He's definitely not Yano Vieira, but he's one of those types of players that could be useful in certain circumstances, but I'm not sure that Arteta is going to get that right, because it took him a long time to figure out that he needed to play Tomiyasu in big games away from home against the traditional six, and also in the Champions League. So I'm not sure if that really makes, if that's going to make a difference, Winston King, thank you so much for viewing from Jamaica. I love that. Hopefully it's a lot warmer there than it is here. Boy says Ceballos had some sauce to him, though. Ceballos did have some sauce. Here to there says, and Palace is basically one of the only 3 or 4 teams where Eddie merits possibly getting in the team. If Arteta lets them buy someone else, I swear, they just have to not be so arrogant, stop being arrogant and just let him go and use the money to do something else. Yo-Yo says DYCHE versus Hodgson sounds like torture. And I've joined the torture chamber. I have, because I have it on now. And it does not look pretty. It does not look pretty at all. Oof, stinky. Not that much better than how we played against Fulham, though, if I'm honest. So yeah. Let's see. So Travi says Onana is dog. He made not be party, but he's a dog. Oh, I mean, he has that dog in him, that's for sure, if that's what you mean. Like he's not a finesse fancy player. He's just not. And to use these types of players, you have to know when to use them and how to utilize them. And it requires you to change your tactics a little bit if you're not going to play that way all the time. And so that's my main concern with somebody like this, because I do feel like we need another CMDM that's kind of a little bit more of a P&P merchant. But I have some other players that I would prefer over him. One of them, I'm not going to tell you guys who it is, because listen, I don't want you guys coming for my neck. But the other one is Yusuf Fofana. So yeah, let's see what else is going on. I also wanted to talk to you guys about Dusan Vlahovic. I wanted to talk to you guys about Dusan Vlahovic as well, because his the director of Juventus came out and said that he didn't know about any Arsenal interest or any Arsenal bid or anything like that. He said a bid from Arsenal for Dusan Vlahovic. We don't know anything about that story. There's nothing. Vlahovic is not for sale. And I think that comes off of the back of Sky Sports saying that Arsenal will return for Dusan Vlahovic, and any, bid over 50, 60 million would get the deal done. I know a lot of people do posturing out there in the media and pretend like players are not for sale. That could be very well what we're doing with Eddie and Nketiah, but I just don't see us bringing in a striker in this window. I think Arsenal will wait. Ooh, that's a red. Did he get the ball? That looked like a red to me. You guys will let me know if you think it's a red. But rojo. But yeah, they came out and said this, and it may be posturing, but I just don't see us getting a striker in this window. I definitely think Arsenal will wait into the summer. But I was talking to Deluded about this earlier, that my whole feeling on the striker situation is if we wait and potentially, don't meet our targets for the season because we don't have a true goal scorer in our team, then I don't expect us. You're off, Calvert-Lewin. You're gone. I don't expect them to just settle for Ivan Toney. I expect them to go for somebody that can really raise the level of this team. And so my ideal choice would obviously be Osimhen, but Osimhen would be the most difficult to get. And then my second option would be Sesko, because I know you guys have been asking me. I wanted to make sure I had an answer the next time. So that's my answer, is if we can't get Osimhen, go get Sesko. Yeah. Kenneth says red. Social Joint says not a red for me. He kind of came from the side a little bit. I mean, it's studs. It's high, but he doesn't really get. It's more that Klein runs into him and the ball just happens to be there more than Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets the ball. He kind of got the player. Yeah, he got the player, you guys. It's a red. I think it's a red. You're off. Yeah. Bye. That was not good. C. Walder says, soft, I think. Oluwaseyi says, Oluwaseyi says, never a red. Lionide says, Gen Z red card. Chosen One says, Jess, if we give Palace Eddie, why don't we ask them for Eze? Even if they shut it down, why not just ask? He'd be perfect for us. I think it's just more because of, we could ask for him, but I think it's for the exact reason that you said, that we probably won't be able to get Eze mid-season. So, I think I like Eze. He still wouldn't be my number one choice. Probably, funnily enough, people probably would be disappointed that I would say that, or it might be an unpopular opinion, but as good as he is, I'd probably still want somebody else. Yeah, that's just me though. The Arsenal perspective says Eze for Eddie, nice but dreamland. Travi says another player I don't want is the Jimenez that plays for in the Dutch league. He is not a dog. We need a dog up front who's going to win duels and cause chaos. I think Jimenez does cause chaos. Every time I've watched him, he looks like a menace, but that's just me. But I like Sesko. That's the player that I want. So yeah, here to there says Sesko looks good, but he can't even get into the Leipzig team. I would like him as our second striker. He would need a season to mature. I mean, if we're going to wait around, like the whole thing for me is if you don't get Osimhen, everybody else to me is a project. I don't think anybody else comes straight in and makes a huge difference or, doesn't need a little bit of sprucing up. Evan Ferguson, not the finished article. Jimenez, we don't know how those goals are going to translate from the Eredivisie to the Premier League. Dusan Vlahovic needs some sprucing up because he's been rotting away at Juventus. So I would rather go for the player, in my opinion, that has the right profile and has all the attributes. I don't really want a slow striker. I want somebody who can run in behind, who has really good ball striking ability, who has an eye for goal, and has the physical qualities to be an absolute monster. And so, I would have taken Højlund. Truly, I would have. I know he suffered a little bit at Man United and he took a long time to start scoring in the Premier League for them. But I think even he would bag for us. I really do. I think we're overthinking it. And I don't think Højlund is infinitely better than Sesko. I don't think there's much between the two. I genuinely do think that we don't realize how bad our forwards are in terms of goal scoring. And that all you need to do is just put, even Solanke would bag for us. It's not that difficult. So even if it is a younger player, that's not the perfect, thing. At least if you have somebody that exists within the box and can connect to a cross, we would score a lot more goals. I know it sounds very damn, is it that bad? And I'm like, y'all, our forwards have 12 goals between them this season. 12. Everybody else is in double digits, or not in double digits. They're in the 20s and higher. And ours are still hanging around at 12. I don't think we realize, you go into a season with Jesus as your main striker and Nketiah as the backup, and you have guys like Reece Nelson also as backup options. Put me in there. Put me in, coach. I'll kick the ball in the back of the net, because it's actually a nonsense that the more I think about it, I don't know what I was thinking at the beginning of the season when I was like, maybe we don't need an attacker. Maybe we just need two midfielders. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, because that was not the right way to think. But I never would have imagined that Martinelli would fall off a cliff like this. Samuel, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, Jess, I think we should sign the Girona left back, Miguel Gutierrez, I think his name is. We've been linked with him. Ever since he was at Real Madrid, we've been linked to him. I think Manchester City would probably have first dibs on him, considering what team he plays for. But he looks okay. I think I'd prefer Hato. But if you're just going for the midfieldy version, he would be a good option. I just freaking pick somebody and bring him in. The left back scenario at Arsenal is getting old. The amount of left backs that we bought, if it's not, I don't know, a big signing, I'm kind of just bring somebody in. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it. It's just not that exciting anymore. We've rebought in this position so many times that I'm like, can we do something else? Is there any wiggle room for something else? Now, if we were going to bring in a big left back signing, you guys know who my choice would be. Tell me in the chat, guys, who would be my number one choice. If you guys have been here for a while, you guys know if we're going to spend big on a left back, and what I mean big is 50 million or more. Who do I want? You guys know. It's a Estupinian. But other than that, just pick somebody. Pick somebody that's fit enough. I don't really care anymore. P-Trim says, Jess, you wouldn't think we would have had issues with attack this season. The Xhaka missing component is real. I didn't think that it would be this bad. I thought there could be potential fall off, but I never would have imagined that. If you would have told me that Martinelli would have 2 goals right now, I would have slapped you. Like, I would have been like, you're wild. You know? So yeah. Mr. Happy says Isak in the summer. I would love to bring in Isak. I know that some people are not fond of him, but I think he would be a good option for us. But he's at Newcastle, so I don't really see how we could get him. It's gone. It's done. But Isak for me is just a very good striker and also fits the Arsenal ethos. Like when they were saying that he was like the new Thierry Henry and he had on that nasty Newcastle shirt, I was like, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth, please. It was disgusting. But if he was wearing an Arsenal shirt and they said that, I'd probably be excited about it. So just imagine Alexander Isak with the number 14. Looks good, doesn't it? Just close your eyes, imagine it. It looks right, you know? But we missed the boat with him. We missed the boat. And so there's nothing we could do about it. But, you know, I did tweet that the other day just to rattle some Newcastle fans that we should go ahead and try to get Isak in the summer because he'd probably be available. And it did the trick. It definitely did the trick. Shamaraya says, Sai, I wish we had got Gundogan. Me too, but I also wish we got Messi. I also wish we could get Mbappe. There's just some players that we were never going to get, and Gundogan was definitely one of them. I just don't understand how you go from Gundogan and Mount to Havertz. I think that's what really confused me because there were so many other players in between Mount and Havertz that you could have looked at. You know, I just don't understand how we got there. Teshego says, Estupinian is class. Got to be careful because I was fooled by Cucurella in the Brighton system. You guys know I used to love Cucurella. Now he just looked like that Brighton system was making him look good, but I don't think Estupinian is the same. I think he's different. Now we'll know finally if he's better than the system when he goes to City because that's where he'll end up. You know, Yo-Yo says, I like the golazos of Grimaldo, but Estupinian would be a no-brainer. He's just a fullback that would take us to the next level because he can do both things. He can do the bombing on, he can do the midfieldy, and he can also defend. And I think, again, if you're going to spend top dollar on a fullback, they have to be able to do everything. And right now we have a bunch of left backs that can kind of do the job, but none of them really fully convinced because there's one or two parts of their game that just is not well-rounded enough, you know? And so I don't anticipate Arsenal going after Estupinian or paying whatever nonsense fee Brighton has attached to him. But if we were to go do that, that's who I would go get. You know, that's who I would go get. I just think he's amazing. Yo-Yo says Estupinian played under Unai. I swear he did. He did. He did. And it's just at some point we'll get to the point in football where we just go back to players playing in their right positions. I think a lot of people are already doing that. I think that's why the false nine is being phased out, is that your striker needs to be a striker, your fullback needs to be a fullback. You know, the Pep-ism of football will go away, and Arsenal hopefully don't get left behind. You know, like we were talking about the other day, I don't know exactly how that person said it, but they basically said that like there are too many players in the Arsenal team whose their special talents are outside of the primary requirement of their position. So you have a striker that doesn't strike, you have a left back that doesn't defend, you know, you have a midfielder that doesn't midfield. When you have too many of those, it just complicates things, and it would just be a good option for Arsenal to just go out there and the next left back that they get to be able to do both roles, you know, to go out there and get a left center mid that just knows how to left center mid, you know, but everything about our team is about everything being outside of a position. And I also think too many of our players have too many roles. Like if you have Martinelli out there and you simplify his role into just scoring, I think he'll do a lot better. But there are a lot of players doing a lot of roles. Odegaard and Saka, I don't know how they do it because they have to do everything. You know, Ben White, when he said that the right back at Arsenal has to be a DM, a right wing, freaking goalkeeper, everything. I just was like, that's just too damn much. You know, that's just too much. You shouldn't have to do all that, you know, simplify things just a little bit. Social Join says Osimhen is clear of Isak. Osimhen has been a champion in 2 different leagues. As underdog teams show some respect. Osimhen is clear of Isak. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't take Isak because the likelihood of us getting Osimhen is not like a guarantee. So there are just other options out there that I would like. But the option, like, I don't want somebody that cannot run in behind. I want somebody with that directness and the speed and the pace and the athleticism. I want all that in my center forward, as well as somebody that has a real eye for goal and only really cares about shooting on sight. I don't really care about, if you can flick it, rainbow flick, how you look on the ball, do you move me? I don't care about that. Are you in the box and are you shooting? That's all I care about, you know? And so I like Isak and his flair and stuff like that, but I think he scores quite a few goals and he tends to be in the right place at the right time. So you get all the flair and the cute shit, but you also get goals. He is injury prone though, Isak. That's the one thing that I don't like about him, is that he does tend to get quite a few injuries, but let's see what he has so far. He has 9 goals this season and he had 10 goals last season. So that's not like prolific by any, means, but in 22 games he had 10 goals and in 15 games this season he had 9 goals. So if he could double that, he could be a 20 goal per season striker, if he can keep up this pace. So yeah, I like him. I like him. That's just me though. But I go back and forth about him all the time. So next week I might say I'm not really into Isak like that. Samuel, thank you so much for your super chat again. Says, what do you think of Bruno G or Joe Linton? Nothing. No, I'm just joking. I don't think about Joe Linton. I don't think about him. So we'll just put him to the side. Anybody that's been a long-term member of this channel, first of all, shout you out because you're a real one. But for anybody that's been here for a long time, maybe Yo-Yo can attest for this, but I was absolutely furious that we never got Bruno G. I thought when he left Lyon that was the perfect player to replace Granit Xhaka, and I never really understood why we couldn't replace Granit Xhaka before Granit Xhaka left. This idea that it's one in, one out, no overlap was nonsense to me, because for Newcastle to get Bruno G for 34 million, I was like, we are so stupid. We are so dumb. And I still kind of feel that way, because I don't feel like he'd be this bruiser if he played for Arsenal. I think that's the reason why he always is trying to knock one of our players out whenever we play them, is because he's upset that we never came and got him, But I think he's a really quality player. He's always up at the top of the table for progressive passes and progressive carries and things like that. He's always fully involved with what Newcastle are doing. He's reliable in terms of his availability. And I could have quite easily just brought in Bruno G and Paquetá, and I would have been really happy with our midfield, and it would have cost us less than 100 million. So that's where I'm at with that. But I really do rate him. I think he's regressed under Eddie Howe, but when they get their new manager, which seems like it could be sooner rather than later, I think he could potentially go to another level. I think he's a fantastic player. It's just a shame that he's just turned into a little thug over there, But I don't like what he did to Jorginho. I didn't like that shit at all. And if he played for Arsenal, he could never do that, because he would have been red carded just like that, But he's a very good player. Very good player. Boy says, you are so scared of playing good youth for some reason when there's 3 in our current team. Chosen One says, Jess, for one game, Arteta should try Saka at left center mid, put Jesus on the right, and then take your pick at center forward. Saka has the instincts of a midfielder. Obviously, you're losing his wing play if you do that, though. I love these types of ideas, and I wish Arteta would be a little bit more creative with the things that he does, especially in the front, like in the front 5, and left center mid, right center mid, the front 3. I wish he'd use everything to his disposal. I would love to see maybe Reece Nelson start on the right, and Saka could play left center mid. He has more options available to him than he uses, but pretty much his formula is start with Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka. And then if Martinelli is shitting the bed, then bring in Trossard and play him in the same position. But, oh, by the way, neither of them actually are great with the chalk on boots. And, if that doesn't work, take Jesus out and put in Nketiah. There's no finesse or creativity or anything. Everything is so obvious and very bland and like lacks any sort of like vision. You know what I mean? I would love to see more combinations and players playing in different positions. And I would love for our front 5 to be completely interchangeable, free flowing, all that kind of stuff. But, he doesn't do any of that kind of stuff. He just doesn't. Like he does not do anything other than the obvious, you know. If Martinelli's not playing well, Trossard. If Jesus is not playing well, Nketiah. That's it. Let's see. Naz AFC says, you have these thoughts on the manager, so how long are you giving him to win a major honor? I said if he didn't win anything this season, then moving him on should not be off a conversation that's off the table like it kind of feels like it has been, especially amongst fans. You know, I think he's been largely kind of like protected in a way, and if you say anything remotely not positive about him, then you're considered toxic and negative and all this kind of stuff. But I just think the reality is that like the project should not be about Mikel Arteta. It should be about Arsenal. And so if he's not good enough, then we need to move him on. And that's just the truth. And I like the players more than I like Mikel Arteta. I don't want to lose these players. So if he doesn't win anything this season and he's well off of the pace too, like meaning we go out of the FA Cup on Sunday, we go out of the round of 16 in the Champions League, and then we're like 5-6 points off of the top at the end of the season, or we're in a top 4 scrap, then yeah, you have to look at it because he's been backed very much. But depending on the context and things like that, I don't think I would just be like, you know, Arteta out. Mods, come get the people. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm doing my job as well. Let's see. Here to there says, people act like the critique on Arteta is merely results based. For me, it's more decision and process based, which has been suspect. I agree. I think when you think about Arteta's, it's not just about the results for sure. It's about the decisions that he makes. And I think sometimes he's heavy handed in some of the decisions that he makes. And sometimes I feel like, does he even see that this is a problem? And so, yeah, I think about the decision making a lot. I agree. Craig said Xhaka was my favorite. Xhaka was my favorite player, and I could not believe we let him go for so little. I mean, he wanted to leave, but yeah, we don't get good fees for our players. Like, what did we get? Like 21 million. So, I mean, that's not too bad for Xhaka with only 1 year left, you know, on his deal. So that's not too bad, but in general, we don't get a lot for our players, you know. So yeah. And Unknown Nun says, sign Mbappe. And I'm down for that 100%. So there's 200 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let me see. Is there anything else we should talk about before? My back is killing me. Oh my gosh. Twitter is really like the Wild Wild West, isn't it? But yeah, that's pretty much all that was out there for the afternoon show, was the little bit of Vlahovic news, the Onana stuff, and you know, the Eddie and Nketiah stuff. You know, just sell, try to get some money so that we can reinvest into the team. If you want this guy from Turkey, this left back, just get him sooner rather than later so we can integrate as soon as possible. But start making some decisions, because it's very strange to me how we can make such drastic decisions in circumstances that don't require it. But when it's time to shit our gut off the pot, we're always looking like we're paralyzed for some reason. And it's like, move, you know? This also came out a couple of hours ago, too, that Thomas Frank announces Brentford have no plans to sell Ivan Toney in January. Yes, he's staying. So we can completely just like take that off of the table, which I've been kind of talking about over the last couple of like days, where I don't really think Toney is going anywhere. I think a lot of the media are just using his name as a way to get clicks and, you know, saying things like it's a race against time to see who can get the amount of money required to buy Ivan Toney. He's not going anywhere. They're not going to sell him with Mbomo out, and them wanting 80 to 100 million is a freaking nonsense for anybody thinking about buying him, despite him being worth that to them. So Ivan Toney is not somebody that's going to come to us in January. And I also hope that takes him off the table for the summer as well, because he's not good enough. He's not good enough for us in the summer, in my opinion. I just feel it's a desperate January signing, but it's definitely not a summer signing. You know, he doesn't take us up enough levels. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, Matt G says 22 million for 30-year-old Xhaka with 1 year left in his deal was a great deal. It was good. I think in general, we don't get enough for our players, but that was fine. Like, I didn't really have that big of a problem with that, to be honest. Aki says, what sort of back pain do you have from Jess? It's called Arsenal. They put me through pain. Samuel says, thank you so much for your super chat, by the way. Says McGinn at Villa is really good. He is. I think McGinn really suits Unai Emery's style. I think all of those players suit Unai Emery's style. What I like about their midfielders and their fullbacks and everybody just plays their position. There is no, whatever. The midfielders are midfielders, the fullbacks are fullbacks, the striker is a striker, and all of that creates a very easy way of playing. And everybody really works hard in Unai's system as well. So he doesn't have any midfielders that are like lazy or prima donnas or luxury players either, which I think is the reason why he kind of suffered at Arsenal, is because he didn't have 3 or 4 hard-working midfielders. He had some prima donnas in there, so I think that team, the way it's structured, the players, all that really fit Unai Emery. It feels like the right project for him and all that kind of stuff. But McGinn's not somebody I would want at Arsenal. Call me a snob, but I don't want him at Arsenal. There's some other players at Villa I would like at Arsenal, but he's not one of them. I think he's exactly where he needs to be, but good player. Definitely a good player. Yo-Yo says, Gunners wanted DCL, Abraham under Arteta. Please aim higher. The freaking Abraham DCL days were dark. They were dark. We should go through some of the players that we used to talk about as if like we should have got them. I remember there was like a Ryan Fraser stage where it was like, oh, we should bring him in on a free. When I talk about the depths of hell that we were in, child, we were, whew, it was bleak. It was bleak when you think about some of the players that we go from 0 to 100. We go for like really, really bad players to Mbappe real quick. It's crazy. The Arsenal perspective says Benzema. Boy says DCL to Arsenal was crazy. Craig says, Jess, did you see Everton red card? Football is done if that's a red card. I thought it was a red card. I didn't really see how it wasn't. I mean, he was high. It was studs. It was, whatever. But, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I need to look at it again. Maybe I've gone soft, Maybe I'm the problem. Here to there says Souček is clear of Havertz for sure. Let's not go that far. Let's not go that far. Yo-Yo says Villa's squad sucks or stinks. They have no business fighting for Champions League. They will fall sooner than later. I don't know. Do I really believe that their squad stinks? I don't. Like Douglas Luiz, Jacob Ramsey, those players are good. Ollie Watkins is playing really well. Diaby's a quality player. I don't think their squad stinks. I think it's a European side. Like they definitely are like a more of a Europa type of team, in my opinion. But I think that squad and team really suits, Unai, and they're good players. I think that they're world-class great players? No, but they're good, if that makes sense. They're just not like amazing, or whatever. There are some of their players I would take though. I would take like 1 or 2 of their players. Jacob Ramsey is somebody that I would take at Arsenal. I would also take, oh no, I'm feeling different about Douglas Luiz now. I'm kind of like, are you really good? Or is it just the free kicks and the fact that we have Havertz over there? You know what I mean? There's a couple of them that I think I'd look at. Naz AFC says moves in to left 8 and buy a left back that can defend, buy a forward and a CB, and we're good. Not in all in the January is not going to happen though, Naz. It's not going to happen all in January. You need to aim a little bit lower. You need to aim just a little bit lower than that. But I really do wonder what the future is for Zinchenko, because his future cannot be at left back for Arsenal that much longer. The older he gets and the more injuries he gets, the less agile, and his, he needs to be more, he can't be exposed like that anymore, so I wonder what his, what the future is for Zinchenko, because there has to be something or you have to sell him. Like he's not somebody that I can imagine could be our left back next season. He can be in the squad, but he has to have a different role. Social Join says, at their growth rate, would those players really come and be a bench player here? All those guys look like Calvin Phillips level mistakes. Nuances of Fate says Diaby. Temi says, I take Leon Bailey. The Arsenal perspective says, Jess, do you agree that next summer window should be the last overhaul window for Arsenal? Can't be signing for every window. We were meant to be at our Van Dijk Allison stage, and we went backward. This past summer, I thought we were in that period. I was like, okay, we're going to get Timber, but we're going to spend big on Declan Rice and big on one more. And I think we've kind of undone some of the work. Also, holding on to injury-prone players has hurt us because holding on to them too long, their injuries are continuing to plague our season. So then we have to replace them when we should have already probably replaced them or made them less important in our team. So it's taking us a long time to get to our Allison Van Dijk window. And yeah, we're gonna have another overhaul summer. We're gonna need 4 or 5 players instead of the 1 or 2 that we thought we were at, but I don't know what to tell you. The rebuild is rebuilding. It's still rebuilding, so this summer we're gonna need, at least we're gonna need another defender, we're gonna need another midfielder, we're gonna need a striker, and we're gonna need a winger. That is not your Van Dijk and Allison fucking window. It's just not, so there you go. Natalie says Bailey's a good player. Ex Gank. Bailey is a good player. I wouldn't like if you don't like injury prone players, you wouldn't like Bailey, but at Arsenal. But he looks like a good player. Like again, when we played them, it really wasn't like their atmosphere wasn't scary or anything like that. They got an early goal and we just could not score. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't think people realize how bad our attack has actually been this season. Like beyond like, okay, once we figured out how to get chances, like what made more sense was the midfield taking a while to, midfield, get together. But what does not make sense to me is the same 3 that we had last season not being able to score goals. That does not make any sense to me. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's if we had a decent player out there, a decent striker out there, a decent forward out there, we would have scored a couple of goals against Villa. I genuinely don't think people realize how bad it's been. Odegaard and Saka are in the top 5 creative players in the league. Statistically, they create loads of chances, especially Odegaard. And so for them to be creating those amount of chances, for us to be, we're below Nottingham Forest and Fulham, I think, and a couple of other really bad teams in open play goals. They only have 20. Chelsea have more open play goals than we do. And so for me, like I don't know if it's just a lack of quality or the tactics or both, but the attacking, and some part of me feels like we need different players up there. We definitely need 2 attackers, and to go through our big window last summer and not bringing in somebody, I am realizing a lot more that like we had to bring in somebody, but Arteta never has really seemed desperate to bring in attackers either. Like he keeps rebuilding the back line and rebuilding his midfield. And it's like, can we get them shits done so we can do something further forward? So it's just, yeah, it's crazy. Here to There says, I'm getting to the point. I just want Saka and the rest of our core 6-7 players to escape the year without Arteta re-dining them into serious injury. Tammy says, Arteta should have managed Partey and Tommy by buying competition for them to share game time, which should reduce the probability of their injuries. Nas AFC says, exactly, he's ruined our game. All the front 3 are lacking, and mid, except for December, our fullbacks and goalkeeper been shaky. Chosen One says, Jess, I'm pretty unrelated, but what are your thoughts on the Mbappe Liverpool links? God help us. Like if they get him, God help us. Like that's just my thought. M. Dot says, Jess, could you let me know who would you let go this summer? I got about 8 players. We are not buying 8 players for sure to let go. If for some reason Eddie and Smith Rowe and Nelson escape this January window, I would imagine Cedric and El Neni are going to go this window. If they escape, whew, wow. But Reece Nelson, ESR, Nketiah, Tierney, Thomas Partey, Jorginho, don't renew him. Let him go. Ramsdale, those are the main ones. that I would move on. So what is that, like 5, 6 players? You might have to keep one of those homegrown ones because Arteta's not going to bring one of the academy players in, and so you might have to keep one of them. Hopefully it's not Eddie. I need him gone. But yeah, about 6 players. But I'm open to. I named 9. Did I? That's a lot. Let me write this down. I don't think I did. Did I? Okay, Ramsdale. Take Cedric and Elneny out. Okay. TP. Jorginho, let him go. That's not really selling, but whatever. Nelson. I know I blacked out there, but I'll come back. Nelson, ESR, Nketiah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6. That's 6. So yeah, that's like 6. 6 of them have got to go. The Arsenal perspective says Elneny, ESR, Cedric, Nketiah, Nelson, Tierney. That was the other one, Tierney. And then you have to do something about Lokonga and those guys too. But yeah, there's a lot of work to. Oh my gosh, Marquinhos. Did y'all hear that he's having his loan terminated? Did you guys even know he was gone? Did you even know Marcus was gone? Marquinhos, like, my goodness. He was so bad. It was so funny. It's so funny how bad he was. I did like when he scored against like Zurich, I did kind of like laugh because it was funny because I was like, bro, you're not making it here, but it's okay, I get you. Like, this was his dream. Mr. Happy says, I think Cedric and Elneny leave this window. I do as well. So yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7. Like 7 like major players need to go. And I don't want to see anybody questioning Thomas Partey needing to go. If anything, what I will say is that it'll probably be more difficult for us to move him on now that everybody has seen what a crock he is. So the only other thing I can see is him running his deal down. It'll be harder to move on because everybody knows that he's so injury prone. I saw something that, Juventus no longer want to bring in Thomas Partey because they know he's not going to be able to help them because he's not fit enough. So I can't see a scenario where he just runs his deal down. But again, his importance to the team needs to be almost like a cherry on top. Like, oh my gosh, and we do have Thomas Partey still, but he cannot be somebody that we're expecting to start games, or if somebody were to get injured, he would be the next person up because he won't be there. So Thomas Partey is one of those you could put a little asterisk next to him because he might just sit on the contract. Once you get into the last 12 months of a contract with the player, you're beholden to them. What they say goes, but that's why we probably should have sold him this past summer, as unpopular as it sounded, at the time. I think a lot of people can see now why I did not feel as convinced that he had to stay, because had we had moved him on, and even maybe one other player, we could have brought in somebody that, even if they were 5% not as good as Thomas Partey, I get how highly he is regarded as a player, right? Talent level wise, but if 5% less talent, but 50, 60% more available is more valuable to Arsenal, and Jorginho doesn't offer that. He's not 50, 60, like he's not just 5% less good than Thomas Partey. He's way lower. And we know that, so, but we'll see what happens with Thomas Partey, but I could see him staying just because he's going to run his deal down. Hype says, I wouldn't leave if I'm earning 250 though. Exactly. Eris says he's one of the highest paid players at the club. And that's why I also don't understand why people don't have higher expectations for him, why they think it's okay for him to be poor in a lot of big games, why they thought it was okay for him to really bottle it against West Ham and play terrible against Manchester City at the Etihad. He's supposed to, if he's everything that people say he's supposed to be, you should have higher expectations for him, I feel like, especially on the wages that he's on. You know how many times since Odegaard has signed his new contract that the first thing that people say is he's one of our most highest paid players? Keep that same energy. It's not like Thomas Partey is not 30 years old. Isn't he like 31? So yeah, I could see him running his deal down. And as long as he's kind of like our Thiago Alcantara, where like Liverpool fans have completely forgot about him and were okay to sell him, but like they're like, oh yeah, he's going to come back and be like a cherry on top. If he's that next season, that's fine, but it can't be where when is he coming back? Like, it cannot be that. It cannot be that. Um, D'Angelo said Jorginho did his part. I agree. I think Jorginho did his part for a 12 million pound signing that nobody really wanted and nobody had any expectations of. I think he's done what he can do. He is what he is. Jorginho, I can't be upset with him for not being athletic, or being able to run. I can be mad at him about what he did against Spurs, but I felt like in the very next game against Brentford, he tried to make amends for it, so I can't be upset with Jorginho about that. But what I will say is do not re-sign him. Do not re-sign him. If you have Thomas Partey and he's not going to leave and he's going to sit on his contract, then it makes so much sense to allow Jorginho to go, because then Thomas Partey can take the Jorginho role. And that's fine. The Arsenal perspective says, Jorginho, thanks for the Villa goal last season. Eris says that's a good comparison, but it's up to the management to get a proper 8 in. Nas AFC says by the next summer, for me, Partey, Vieira, Kivior, Jorginho, Elneny, Eddie, Nelson, Ramsdale need to all go. All no time for sentiment. Kenneth says, is it a sin to be African? Absolutely not. I don't even know where you're getting that from. Of course not. Yo-Yo says, I didn't mind him leaving, but if it was for Lavia as people wanted, we'd be in a similar position in the immediate future at least. I was perhaps short-sighted, wanted Arsenal to win silverware now. I mean, I don't think anybody could have anticipated Lavia being injured. But I get what you're saying. Like, hindsight is, 2020. Maybe we would have been in the same position or whatever, but I still feel like 5% less talent, but 50% more available is more valuable to Arsenal. Maybe not in the not as a 19-year-old, but, maybe as a Fofana, something like that. So, yeah. What says fumbling the midfield and then not having money for a striker was a huge issue in the summer. Oh no, I don't want to put that up. No, I don't want to put that up. So yeah. M. Dot says, I don't think Edu is ruthless in getting rid of players which just don't cut the mustard. He has done well with buying. Has he though? Like, he hasn't done well with sales at all. Like, if I had to give him a grade for sales, I would give him an F. Like, he's been bad at sales. But in terms of buying players, I also think that he overspends. I think he doesn't have the ability to haggle people down, and he's not willing to walk away. Like, I just don't understand why you would spend 65 million on Havertz. Like, if you had haggled Chelsea down to 40 million, I feel like that would be a better, like, I would be like, damn, Edu's got it like that. But they asked for 65 million and we gave them 65 million, And so he can spend money. There's a difference between being good at buying and like being a good business person and being a freaking shopaholic that overspends on everything and then wastes that money, and then doesn't touch whatever you bought and there's still tags on it and shit. Do you know what I mean? And so I think, like, if I had to give Edu like a grade for the players that he's bought in, I'd probably give him a B- C+, something like that, because there's been a lot of wastage in these last 2 years, or these last couple of like windows. But in terms of selling, he's been really poor, I think. He's been okay, he's been okay. But there's definitely room for improvement for sure. He just needs to, like, there needs to be a grown-up in the room, and I'm not sure that there is one. Let's turn it on to this Barcelona game. So yeah, you got to be able to haggle the price a little bit, get them down, find smart buys, things like that. Like, listen, if we want to get into the nitty gritty, we can talk about how Don Raul, even though he was, brown envelopes in some circumstances, he really effed us over with Pepe. He did go out. He was a part of the group that under his, his regime, that's how we got Martinelli. We also got Saliba for 27 million. So it's hard for me to say bad things about Don Raul when like two of our most important players came from that regime, and those were smart signings. Saliba for 27 million is a very smart signing. And so is Martinelli for 6 million. I've been dying for Edu to get his ass to Brazil and find us a new gem, because all he's brought us back is freaking Marcus. So like, as much as like I'm kidding, and like obviously Raul needed to go because he was doing some shady shit, I do think when you look at the smart buys that were happened under that regime, there were some dumb ones, but there were some smart ones, and they had way less money, by the way, versus, oh shit, wow, that was scary. That was a real big mistake back there. Oh, they have Victor Roque playing for the first time, I think, Barcelona. But yeah, when you look at some of the smart buys that they've done, I'm waiting for us to bring in a smart buy from Brazil, and we just haven't done it yet. But they had Francis Cagigao, and we got rid of the entire scouting department, and I understand why, and we went to data, but you still have to have boots on the ground too. And so yeah, it's an interesting one. Boy says Francis Cagigao, one of the best scouts forever. He was. Nuances of Fate says Don Raul was at least a grown up, would never put up with Arteta's nonsense. That's funny. Yo-Yo says Arteta, Edu are so fortunate to be having their learning at this great club. They must take advantage of the privilege and reward the faith given to them by KSC and the fans. Ify says, Yo, Raul can get players into the club. I respect him for that, despite his shadiness. Yeah, he was shady, that's for sure. The Talking Gas podcast says, evening, Jess. Good evening to you as well. So yeah, it's very interesting. Like, would we have gotten Saliba if Edu was DOF? I don't think so. I think that's probably what some of the best business that we've done, is Saliba for 27 million, and just the level of talent that he is. I don't know who Arteta would have gotten, but it would not have been Saliba. It would have been some nonsense player that ain't no good. So yeah, guys, I got McDonald's. And there's just something about the way Coke tastes from McDonald's. It just tastes so much better. So yeah. Let's see. Social Join says, what agent is not shady? Football is a mess. It is a mess. Arsenal Perspective says, well, we have Paulo Xavier coming, which is great. I'm excited. I'm excited about that. Mr. Happy says, Jess, you said we moved to a data approach. I thought we got rid of the scouts and moved to agent-led approach. Edu doesn't use data. No, I think we do use data. What I read was, yeah, we do have agent relationships that we use with Edu, of course, but it's not just agent. In fact, like, I think Raul used a lot of agent relations, to be honest. I think that we do use data. And I think the data replaced the scouts because it's less expensive to have data find you players than having to pay scouts to actually go out there. And because remember, it was the pandemic and stuff like that, so we were cutting down costs and things like that. And so they got rid of the scouting department. I don't think it was to go to an agent-led approach. It was to be a data-driven approach like Brentford have and all this kind of stuff. But the thing is I think the best approach is always a combination of three: agent relationships, actual boots on the ground, and data. If you do too much of any of those, it topples over. Do you know what I mean? And I think Edu does rely a little bit too much on agents and maybe a little bit too much on data as well. And that's probably why they went out there and got a good scout, because we're not finding like gems. And I think the only way sometimes you can find gems is if you're actually watching them, if you go find them, in Brazil somewhere in the 4th division, you know what I mean? So yeah, Boy says, didn't we rebuild the scouting team though? When Arteta and Edu came in, I think we're still actively building it. I think that's why we bought in the new person. I don't think they got rid of everybody and then replaced them all at once. Part of the whole scouting division, I think, going down or minimizing was about funds, to be honest. Because it was all during the pandemic and we were getting rid of Gunnersaurus, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? So, and Boy says, nothing replaces the eye test. It's why the scouts make big money for watching ball. Nas AFC says, Edu should go if Arteta goes. I would love to be a scout, though. I mean, you guys would hate me because I would be bringing in all types of nonsense, but you'd have I would think I'd be a good scout, low key. Maybe you guys wouldn't like the players that I brought in. Artie RD2 Cineas says, what data suggested Arteta to buy Havertz? The big old computer in freaking Arteta's brain, okay? Like that's what it was. I don't know what made him think that, but here we are. He's a big part of our team, and so I don't know what to tell you, you know. But listen, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We've been going for about an hour and 21 minutes, and so I'm going to finish editing the show that I did yesterday with Diluted again. If you guys want to take a peep at that, you guys can at patreon.com/SheKnowsArsenal. You guys can try Patreon for free for 7 days and then quit if you guys don't like it, or stay on because you guys do. I'll be announcing something really big for Patreon soon. So hopefully you guys have your notifications on so you guys get the information on that. Otherwise, you guys know I'll be available tomorrow doing 2 streams again at the same time, 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. UK time. And in between there, you'll probably get a little bit of you guys know I always on my Patreon podcast, I always give you guys a little clip of it because I love you guys, and why wouldn't I want you guys to be a part of it? So yeah, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel on your way out, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Bye guys.